Krishna is saying Dhanam is important to lead a pure life. But what kind of Dhanam where there's no expectation of any return? You give it to the right person, right place at the right time. If you go back and read our Taittiriya Upanishad in Shishyanushasana, there it comes. The teacher tells this to the Shraddhaya Deyam, Ashraddhaya Adeyam, Shriya Deyam, Biya Deyam, Hriya Deyam, Samvida Deyam. Give it Shraddha. Don't give if you don't have Shraddha. Don't have interest, don't give. Rather, don't give. Then give with all the terrible face that you make and give. The other fellow feels terrible about it. Don't make somebody feel bad that they're receiving from you. Give it in a way the other person feels good too. Ashraddhaya Adeyam, Shriya Deyam. Give in abundance, for it may not be sufficient to for the other person. Give enough, not less. Bhiyadeyam, give it the fear that I have not given enough and that may not be useful to the other person. Hiryadeyam, give it humility. Give it humility, not with ego and arrogance. Samvidadeyam, give it the knowledge of whom you are giving. When I was in Hyderabad, people asked me, what is this dhanam that you are doing, all this, giving free education, health, nutrition? Do you know whether they deserve it or not? I said, yes, we very much know. We go house to house, door to door to find out of which students we should select, whom we should pay for, whom should we sponsor. Great effort is put. Before, when the Marial Narayan scholarship scheme was announced, some people were given complete scholarship. At that point in time, we had interviews, They didn't have this door-to-door investigation. So we just announced in a newspaper and people came in hordes. So when they came, interview was going on. So they used to take, I told interview should be taken separately for the child and the parents. So truth will come out. When the parents were called for interview, they will tell, we don't have anything, we have no income, we are so poor, this and that. We deserve this scholarship. And the child is called, what is at home? We have a bike, 2-acre land, 1 TV, 1 refrigerator. So people misuse dhanam. That's why you have to know whom you are giving and why you are giving. You have to do a lot of research. So this research we do, that is what I told the people in Hyderabad, those are corporate people who were asking me questions. And then about hospital I told, they tell me, why don't you charge at least those who can afford and not, and give it free to those who can't. I said 80-85% of our patients come from families which earn only 10,000 to 12,000 rupees a month. Such a person, if he gets a heart problem, which will cost you 5 lakh rupees to get operated, what can I ask that person? Out of your 10,000 rupees, pay me 1,000 rupees, 2,000 rupees for the next 20 years. What do I ask that person? How will he even pay? Most of our patients come from such poor backgrounds that there is no reason I should even ask him. If 10-15% people can afford it, if their heart moves, they will also offer. I have seen a lot of people even in our hospitals. If they don't have money, they want to do seva. Shramadana they do. If nothing else is there, they offer what they have, like farm produce, vegetables and things like that. Even whatever little money, sometimes they want to donate to some patients whose heart is moved. But when we give, we don't give with this idea that we should get something in return. That is not our agenda. So this is how we do dana, and our institutions are the best example of doing dana charity. Our institutions are the best example of yajna, ahara, we already explained. Yajna, best examples how we perform our duties. 3, tapa. All these tapas, whatever has been asked, we perform. Dana also, we do it in the right place. If you want to know how to do these things, look no further, just look around you. And you will know these institutions are doing all these things right. We are practicing Bhagavad Gita in letter and spirit. Now after this, suddenly Sri Krishna changes the mode, saying that while you do all these 4 things, do with this right kind of a attitude. And that attitude he explains and talks about Brahman, how you should remember God before doing any of these things, before eating, before doing any action, before performing austerities or before doing charity. Do this first. What should you do? Om tat sat iti nirdesho brahmanas trividhi smritaha. That Brahman, that God, that supreme divinity has been recognized with 3 words, in 3 ways. What are the 3 things? Om tat sat. Om, we all know, Omkaram. Tat means that. When you have to describe God, you can't describe as a man or a woman or tall, old, young. The only word is a neutral word uses that. That is God. Because we can't call it by any gender or any particular caste or any qualifications. So that is why Tat. And then Iti, Tat Sat. Third is Sat. Sat means truth, eternity, real. Which does not change, which does not diminish, which does not decline. It is always there. That is called Sat. So these are the 3 words with which God is recognized in our scriptures. Om Tat Sat. We chant no Om Tat Sat Shri Narayanatu. That is our prayer. Vibhaga written that prayer. Om Tat Sat. So Om Tat Sat. Even our Veda Gurukulam's motto is Om Tat Sat. because it's a perfect way of remembering God. That is what Krishna is saying. Brahman is remembered with these three indicators, Om, Tat and Sat. And Brahmanas tena Vedascha Yajnascha Vihidaha Puraha. And from this only came all the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, all the beings. Yajnas were performed, or Yajnas originated from this very Brahman, and Vedas have originated from this very Brahman right from the beginning. Therefore, use Om Tat Sat as your mantra before doing anything. Krishna is advising us like that. I just want to elaborate a little bit on the Om part of it. This Om is one of the most beautiful indicator of Brahman. Of all the faiths, philosophies, religions, Sanatana Dharma has got the perfect representation of Brahman in Om. And this has been described in any number of scriptures in our Upanishads and things like that. In fact, if you see, Om is a that is how Om is divided into three parts. And if you go into the Mundaka Upanishad, it says, Mandukya Upanishad, it says, is the Jagriti, the waking state, the wakeful state. U represents the dream state, and represents the deep sleep state, and the silence which comes after that, that is the fourth state, which is the Brahman consciousness. So when you chant, also if you see from all our speaking point of view, open your mouth, your sound comes from then U goes through the mouth, and it closes. So the entire system is utilized while chanting Om. Is the beginning, middle, and end of everything, as they say. Brahman is like that. So Om, when you chant, I have taught also Om chanting should start from the navel. That first sound should come from this navel, should travel through your throat in U and close in your mouth, and then it should reverberate in your head, that sound for some time. And then after that you should observe silence. There is no great hurry to chant Om, like that. When you chant Om, the silence also has to be observed, because in that silence is that consciousness Brahman. Om. This silence is when you realize this is your true nature. On this silence only all sounds manifest, and they thrive on this silence, and they again merge back in this silence. That is the idea of God. Everything originates, sustained by it, and ultimately goes back into it. So everything is come out of silence, stays in silence, and goes back into silence. That is why silence has to be observed, the fourth one. If you go to the Mandukya Upanishad, very beautiful description is there. But Jagrita Sthano Vaishwanaro. In the Jagrita Avastha, the A part of it is called Vaishwanara, all-knowing. Then Swapna Sthan, Taijasa Ukaro Dvitiya. The second one, Dvitiya, is Ukara, which is Swapna Sthana. It is in the dream state. It represents the dream state. And Sushupta Sthana, Pragnyo Makaras Tritiya. The third one, Makara, is the Sushupti, in the deep sleep state. But beyond that, it says, very beautiful description of Brahman comes, Na anta prajna, na bahish prajna, no bhayataha. That one, the fourth one, is neither the external consciousness nor the internal consciousness. Neither it is conscious nor it is unconscious. All paradoxes means we are talking about Advaita Brahman. Beautiful description. Adrishtam, avyavaharam, agrahyam, alakshanam, achintyam, avyadeshyam, ekatma pratyasaram, prapanchoposhamam, Shantam Shivam Advaitam Chaturtham Manyate Sa Atma Sa Vijnayah. Mandukya Upanishad says, know that fourth one, which is there in all the three, yet it is not seen. Like the screen is there all the time, but it's not seen, the pictures are seen. Silence is there all the time. Even when I'm speaking on the background of silence. If there is no silence, the background sound cannot be heard. So that is the silence which cannot be heard, but it is the reason why everything is heard. Like that, this divinity is very beautiful. Mandukya Upanishad, you should read. It's the shortest Upanishad of only 12 shlokas, verses, but it is the most powerful Upanishad. On that, Gaudapada has written a Karika, a commentary of 250 verses on a 12 shloka Mandukya Upanishad. In fact, it seems Hanumanji asked Rama, tell me one Upanishad, I can't read all the things. Tell me one thing that I can read and know Brahman. And Sri Rama advised Hanuman, read Mandukya Upanishad. And it starts with Om. It tells Om is that Brahman, Om is the Aksharam, Om is everything, and then goes on describing Om in this way. Similarly, in Kathopanishad also, our Yama says, about Om. He says, Sarva Veda yat padamamananti, tapamsi sarvani cha yadvadanti, yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti, tatte padam sangrahena bhavimi, Om ityeta. Let me tell you in a short way, in a brief way, that ultimate truth for which sake all the people do everything, tapa, japa, dhyana, Veda. That is called Om, he says. He says, Etavalambanam cheshtam. Using Om to reach the Brahman is the best way to reach Brahman. Etavalambanam param, the best way and the highest way is this Om. Etavalambanam gyatva brahmaloke mahiyate. When you know, understand this Om, you reach Brahmaloka. You understand Brahman. Remember that silence part of it, how powerful that silence is? Beyond the sound, that silence exists. Represents I am awake. U, in the dream, when the mind alone is awake. When mind also goes asleep, what remains is that silence, the fourth consciousness. This practice of Om should be there. I don't know how many people are chanting Om like this. And when they wake up, anytime. And Om you can chant at all times. There is no muhurtam for that. So I will not get into more details about Om, but I wanted to explain that how powerful is this Om, how well it represents all existence. And ultimately that very Brahman, which is beyond all the existence, yet it sustains, creates and dissolves all the existence. That is what is Om. Of course, Tat, as I said, that, because we cannot see it, we can only mention. If you want to ask me, where is that person, or where is the moon, or what is moon, I have to show a finger and say, that is moon, who has never seen. So that it is said. And that is what? Sat. Sat means which is always there. It is never gone. It is always there. Our bodies come and go, minds change, emotions change, understandings change. Our awareness also changes when we are sleeping or awake or dreaming. But that does not change. So it is called that in our scriptures. And that is Sat. Sat is truth which is indestructible. Then Shri Krishna says, Tasmat Om iti udaharita yajnadana tapakriyaha pravartante vidhanoktaha satam brahmavadinam. Those who are seekers of Brahman or knowers of Brahman, always, as per the scriptural norms, they chant Om and then they do yajna, dana, tapa and all the other activities. They start with Om. That's why in our all verses we chant, we start with Om. Every mantra starts with Om. Because Om itself is like, when I call your name, will you not become alert? Suppose I call name, this Srinivas is there. Srinivas, if I say, he'll become aware, he'll become alert. Like that, when I chant Om, that Brahman in us becomes alert. I am being called, I am being remembered. He energizes all our thought, word and action. Because we have invoked that Brahman in us by chanting Om. That's why Om is so important as a mantra. And all people who are seekers or knowers of Brahman constantly chant Om only and start or do anything. This is how you have to remember God before doing any of Yajna, Dana, Tapa, Ahara. Everything you have to chant, start with Om. And that one remembrance of God before doing all these things purifies it. Add a piece of alum to dirty water, immediately it purifies the water. Add a tulsi leaf to a food, it becomes Naivedyam. Like that, it purifies your every thought, word and action if you chant Om and start your activities. It can be chanted anywhere, anytime. Then Krishna says, Tad iti anabhisandhaya. Tat means that. By remembering that without any desires, anabhisandhaya, without any expectation of phalam, yajna tapakriyaha, the one who does yajna tapa, remembering that. And dana kriyascha vividaha kriyante moksha kangshibi. Those who desire moksha, they remember that and they do everything else. How do they start? They chant Om and start their activities. And they remember that. That is Brahman. And offer everything that they are doing to that. So when you do that, it becomes a Naivedyam. What you receive in return is prasadam. So everything gets purified. Your ego dissolves. Because Kenopanishad says, no, who is the one who is thinking through us, talking through us, listening through us, speaking through us? Keneshitam pratitam peshitam manaha. The question it asks, who is there behind us? So when you remember that and start your activities, where is the question of ego? You think you are breathing, you are making your heart beat, you are making your food get digested. Are you even capable of making yourself listen or not listen? Everything is controlled by that. And that is what is God. And you have to remember that. Chakshushta chakshu is eye of the eye. Shotrasya shotraha, ear of the ear. Knowing that if you start your work, where is the question of any ego? If there is no ego, there is no doership, there is no enjoyership, there is no karma phala. You are free. You can do as much as work you want and you are never bound by it. So this is the beauty of remembering God. Yad juosh, yad karosh, yadashnas, yadasyat, Yat tapasya kaunteya tat kurushu madarpadam. Offer it to God. By remembering tat, we offer it to God. Then last shlokas are Sadbhave sadhubhave cha sat itye tat prayujyate. Sat is the sadhu bhava or sadbhava. The good feeling, the noble feelings are represented by the word sat, like sat karma, sat karya, sat sangha. Everything, when you add sat to it, it represents nobility, auspiciousness, goodness, saintliness, and things like that. Prashaste karmani tatha sat shabda partha ujyate. Therefore, those who are engaged in auspicious work, those auspicious works are known by the word sat. Because like satsanga, you could have had a sangha. Sangha means getting together or joining company, somebody's company. But you are having satsanga, you are joining this company for a good reason, for an auspicious reason. That's why it's called satsanga. So sat is that word which represents auspiciousness. Yagne tapasi dane cha sthiti saditi uchyate. The one who is established in this yajna, tapa and dana, such a person is also known as sat only. He is a sat guru. He is a sat jana, sajjana. That is how we say. Why? Because such a person is established, perfected the art of or the work like yajna, tapa and dana. These are so important. Ahara is included. So this is what it means. Those people are having a what you call a prefix called sat, or rather they are defined by this word sat because that is divine quality. Karma chaiva tadarthiyam sat ityeva vidiyate. Even whatever actions they perform, for whose sake? For that sake. For Om's sake, for the Brahman's sake. So their actions are also sat only. That is how it is known. The sat word is representation of purity, auspiciousness, goodness, divinity. All those who are like that as humans, as people, all their actions and all their yajna, dana, tapa, all things are represented by this word called sat. So Om Tat Sat is a Maha Mantra that way. Whenever we chant that, we remember what? Om represents the Supreme Brahman. Tat, that, we remember and offer our activities. And Sat, when we do that, we become that. Brahma Veda Brahma Iva Bhavati. Once you know that, you become that. So knower, known, and the knowledge all become one. The doer, doing, and the done all become one for Sat people. Sat people are like that. So this is the idea of how you can purify your, starting with your Shraddha. And Shraddha can be purified by purifying your food to begin with. Whatever you see, hear, taste, touch, smell, eat, everything should be purer. That's why I don't appreciate too much of, I'm not saying vegetarian, non-vegetarian, but you are already knowing the category of foods. You only classify them. In fact, in food I always tell, whatever comes from the sky is the best food. It means a fruit that falls on its own after the birds have eaten, and ripe fruit. Whatever grows under the earth, whatever grows above the earth is the second better food, like grains, pulses, and anything else that grows, soppu and things like that. Whatever grows under the earth is the tamasic food, like potatoes and your other roots and tubers, they are tamasic. And whatever moves should not be eaten at all. Whatever comes from the sky, pure rain water, or the fruits that fall on their own after the birds have eaten. That is what sannyasis take. And those which grow above earth, which are grains and things like that, that is taken by the second level of people, which is kind of Rajasi food, which is taken by, let's say, Vanaprasthi take. Whatever grows under the earth, people worldly, desirous of things in the world. That way they are very worldly people. They eat tamasic foods, which comes from. And whatever moves, only Rakshasas eat. Humans don't eat that. Only Rakshasas are made to eat moving things, Humans are not made to eat. Then you will say, but when we were hunters, gatherers, we used to eat everything, including each other. Then what happens? I said, that time you were not wearing shirt and pant and living inside the houses. If you're willing to go back to caves and roam around the way you did, you can eat whatever you want. Everything else has changed in our life, but we don't want to change our food habits. Isn't it hypocrisy? Everything we have changed. We use mobile phones, we don't write letters anymore. We wear stitched clothes, we don't wrap our leaves and bark around us. We don't live in caves, we live in posh houses. We don't walk, we go in vehicles. All the things have changed, but our food habits, we still want to eat things which are moving. And like hunter-gatherers of the past. That's not fair, that's not right. Every week 2 billion animals are killed to feed 6 billion people on earth every week. And the carbon footprint because of animal farming, it's more than 50% of the total carbon footprint in the world, from vehicles, industries, and everything else. The carbon dioxide emission from farms, animal farms, is much more than 50%. And that is so harmful to the environment. If you tell me, people tell, let's cut down on the use of coal, let's cut down on use of fossil fuels like oil and gas and things like that, so that, or let's start carpooling, let's start walking and bicycling. I tell them, all this you do on one side and stop eating moving things on the other side, it will have equal impact. Which is easier? Our Krishna says, Rasopi Rasavarjasya. Though not only the eating, the taste to the tongue, the taste to the mind also should disappear. No? That craving should disappear. That is how we should develop spiritually. Anta. This is the idea. And the final shloka. Ashtadaya hutam dattam tapas taptam kritam chayat asat iti uchyate partha nacha tatpretya noiha. So naturally those who do not do all these things in the right way, it is called as asat. Asat means not real, not truth, not divine. So all the activities, dhanam, tapam, or whatever, yajnam, all these are asat only. It's useless, it is fruitless. And what happens? They don't achieve anything here in this world nor in the other world. They think they will do something in this world and live in heaven like Vajashrava, Nachiketa's father. He was giving away cows which were old and can't eat and can't give milk in the name of charity. The Tamodhanam it has. Wrong dhanam. And then Nachiketa questions him, why are you doing this? He wanted to go to heaven and perform the yajna and go to heaven. But will he go to heaven with this yajna? No, he'll only go to hell. So that is why Nachiketa questions him, and he gets so angry because you can't advise foolish people. He tells Nachiketa, I give you to Yama, go to death. So this is the kind of people they are. And Nachiketa says, Anupashya yatha purve, pratipashya tatha pare, satyamiva martya pachyate, satyamiva ajayate punaha. Remember what people have done before you. Look at what people are doing around you. And understand what is right, what is wrong. Because we are born like a field of corn and we are harvested the next day. Our life is so temporary. Why are you giving these kind of cows with such temporary means? How can you attain permanent peace and happiness? So this is the idea. When we do dhanam, do it with right attitude. When you do any action, do it with remembrance of God, by God, for God, like our democracy. Of the people, for the people, by the people. This is also of God, by Om. For God, Tat. By God, Sat. He only is doing everything through us. For whose sake? For His sake. So it's for God, by God, of God. All our activities should become like that. Then you would have truly practiced the 17th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which is the stepping stone to purifying our gunas, thereby influencing our Shraddha. And through Shraddha, we can attain anything. The jnana can be attained. That is the ultimate purpose of Bhagavad Gita. With this, we close this chapter. We will be entering the 18th and the last chapter of Bhagavad Gita after a day. Meanwhile, when you go back, you have to do Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. Luckily, our institution does not allow you opportunity not to practice. You have to put real efforts not to practice all these things, because everything has been designed in such a way that you end up practicing this kind of ahara tapa or yajna tapa or manotapa, sharira tapa, manatapa. All these you are able to practice because of the opportunity that is at your disposal. Please make best use of this opportunity, because if it is lost, it will not come back again.